Hello, and welcome to Unstuck by Nicole, a little perspective in your pocket to help you think differently, lead differently, and hopefully get unstuck from whatever is keeping you where you are. Now, what if one small word is quietly giving your excuses the final say? And that word is but. I want to do this, but I'm tired. I know I need to have the conversation, but it might feel uncomfortable. I want to go to the gym, but I can't be bothered. I want to take some time for myself, but I have too much to do. We use the word without really thinking about it, but the order in which we place our words can influence which part of the sentence carries the most weight. And sometimes, without realizing it, we place exactly what we want on one side of the but and then give the obstacle the final word. And I was reminded of this during one of my trips to New York. I had wanted to walk the High Line for years. At this point, I'd probably visited New York around 15 times, but I'd never taken the opportunity to do it. Most of my travel was typically for work, and I adore my career, but that can also become a watch out for me because when you genuinely love what you do, it can be very easy to give most of yourself to it. Work does not always feel like something that is taking you away from yourself. It can quite often feel exciting, meaningful, and productive. And that can make it surprisingly easy to forget that you also need to prioritize yourself. And for me, walking the High Line was a small thing. It was simply something I'd wanted to experience. So on this particular trip, I had decided I was going to do it. I was going to walk the High Line. And I only had one day available during this trip where I could complete that. And when I woke up that morning, it was raining hard. Now, my hotel room was very warm and cozy. I was quite tired from some jet lag, and it had been a particularly busy period of travel. And in addition to that, I had a to do list as long as my arm. So staying in the hotel would have been incredibly easy. In fact, I came very close to doing exactly that. And the interesting thing is that staying would not necessarily have felt like avoidance to me. It would have actually felt quite productive. I would have fallen straight into doing mode and I would have stayed warm and cozy, worked through my to do list, and probably felt perfectly fine about the decision, at least in the moment. But I also knew that I would leave New York having missed walking the High Line again, and I would have been frustrated when I reflected on it as an afterthought. And after approximately 15 visits to the city, I would have again prioritized doing over experiencing. So as I looked out at the rain, my thoughts began building a very convincing case. I could hear the internal dialogue, such as, stay in bed, it's too cold outside, it's really wet, it's your only day off, don't spend it drenched, blah, blah, blah. Now, my original thought was very, very simple. I want to walk the High Line, but it's raining. When I'd framed it in that way, the rain became the conclusion, and the rain had the final word. It became the reason the walk could not happen. So I flipped the sentence, and this is what I call the butt flip. And I said it out loud. So I said, it's raining, but I want to walk the High Line. And I recall saying it in a mildly assertive tone. It certainly was not aggressive. I did not need to bully myself into doing something. I just wanted to say it firmly enough that I could hear the intention properly. I am a master practitioner of neuro linguistic programming, or NLP as it's known to some people, and paying attention to language is an important part of my own practice. And I knew that I wanted to hear the newly formed sentence rather than purely allowing it to remain as another quiet thought in my mind. And when I said it out loud, something shifted. Now, the rain did not stop, the room did not become less warm, and my tiredness and my to do list did not disappear, but the rain suddenly felt much less significant. In fact, I felt slightly silly for having given it so much authority in the first place. The obstacle had not changed, the weight I'd placed on it had. And almost immediately, instead of wanting to avoid walking in the rain, I began looking forward to it. And that is the beauty of the butt flip. You take the statements on either side of the word but and you change their order. So originally I said, I want to walk the High Line, but it's raining. It gets replaced with, it's raining, but I want to walk the High Line. The same two facts are present. It is raining and I want to walk, but they no longer feel equally important. In the first version, the rain becomes a reason to stop. In the second, the rain becomes a condition of the experience I have personally chosen. So I went and I completed the High Line walk, and it was fabulous. I remember being in awe of this long pathway in the sky, covered in beautiful plants, while all the intensity of New York continued below. There was something incredibly peaceful about the walk. It almost felt like I had been transported into a different space. The buildings had a completely different angle to them, and the artwork and the sculptures that were placed along the walk allowed me to see New York from an entirely different perspective. It rained for quite a lot of the way, although not for all of it. And when it did rain, I didn't mind because I'd consciously chosen to walk in it. It was my choice and my responsibility. And it was my fabulous walk, which has stayed with me ever since. In fact, when people ask me what they should do when they visit New York, walking the High Line is always one of my recommendations. And I could so easily have missed it. Not because I was unable to go, but because I had allowed the word but to make the rain feel more important than something I had wanted to do for years. I still use the butt flip very frequently. Now, going to the gym is a perfect example for me on how I have to use it. There are days when my thought is, I've got to go to the gym, but I really can't be bothered. And if I leave the sentence that way, I can't be bothered gets to become the conclusion. It is the last thing I hear. So I flip it. I can't be bothered, but I have to go to the gym. I am not pretending that I suddenly feel motivated. I am not claiming that I can be bothered when I cannot. I am simply refusing to let that feeling make the entire decision on my behalf. However, there is one important distinction here, especially when it comes to using the butt flip in relation to things such as going to the gym. The butt flip is not something I use to override a body that genuinely needs rest. Not being bothered is a very different experience from physical tiredness or exhaustion. So I scan my body to notice the difference. Is my body telling me that it needs recovery, or are my thoughts being naughty and attempting to sabotage something that really matters to me? Now, I typically know it's my thoughts being naughty when I hear things such as, I can't be bothered, it's too cold outside, I'm not motivated, or the big one, missing one day won't matter. Those are thoughts that just live in my mind, and they are very different from when my body is genuinely asking me to stop. And taking responsibility for your mind management does not mean blaming yourself or bullying yourself. And it certainly does not mean pushing your body through genuine exhaustion. It means becoming more aware of how you are operating. It means beginning to recognize when an unconscious pattern has quietly appeared. And from that awareness, you can make a more informed decision. Is this avoidance or is this recovery? Do I need to honor what my body is telling me? Or have I simply allowed a temporary thought to talk me out of taking action? So, if you notice yourself using the word but this week, I'd like you to pause and first ask yourself, am I talking myself out of taking action? Then take the two statements around the word but and change their order. Say the new statement out loud, and as you hear it, Scan your body. Does the action feel less restricted? And can you begin to see the opportunity in taking it? If your body is not signaling a genuine need for recovery, try not to overthink what comes next. Take the action, put on the gym clothes, step aside, and begin the conversation. Do the small thing that moves you away from avoidance. Because the butt flip is not about denying the obstacle. For me, the rain was very real, my tiredness was real, my workload was real. It is about deciding whether the obstacle deserves to have the final word. So, quite simply, when you recognize yourself avoiding taking action, flip your butt and prevent your mind from finding comfort in avoidance. I highly recommend sharing this knowledge with your children, friends, partners. This new way of thinking and using language will encourage you to take action and prevent you from holding yourself back. Thank you for spending this time with me today. And until next time, keep a little perspective in your pocket.